via Roku on your smart TV. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
At least you get the scarf.
Yeah. Talif.
Today's the big thing in Harlem, Ahmed Obama Day.
Yeah.
125th Street Day, but it's going to be over.
Yeah. Yeah, I was supposed to do that because I'm part of that team in Harlem. Supposed to be having something like rugby tournament.
When is that?
Today.
Is that with Fred Brown's Jr. son?
No, this is with my group in Harlem.
So when is Fred Brown's Jr. doing his thing?
I don't know. I haven't spoken to him recently.
I hope I didn't pass it. It's not on. Go? Okay. Welcome to Millennium News 24 Power Talk Show. And I'm your host, Eric Stevenson. I'm with you. Today we have a special guest with us, Mr. Rabbi Golf Mashant from New York City. He's part of the Rabbi Council of New York. Welcome, Rabbi, to the viewers.
Thank you.
I think you served as a chair before of the Rabbi Council.
No, well, I was the vice chair of the Israelite Community Vision Council.
Okay.
And a member of the board of the Jewish Community Council of Queens and
New York City.
Yeah, New York
City.
City.
Okay. Well, welcome. Power Talk viewers. Once again, it's a pleasure to be in front of you. Before we go into topics on Judaism and being able to discuss with a rabbi that doesn't look like your typical rabbis that we always see, people didn't know there was many of African descent who's actually Israelites or of Jewish faith that stems all the way back hundreds and hundreds of years before Israel, today Israel, as they call it, that came out of different parts of Africa, Rabbi? Is that the case?
Africa, Portugal, and Spain.
All of these different places. But we're going to get
Morocco.
And Morocco. So we're going to get into that in just a moment. But we want to just talk about some current events and news that's going on. You know, some of the main stuff that's happening. You cannot turn on a TV station today at any time of the day without seeing or hearing discussions about the presidential election here in America. We know Joe Biden has finally decided he cannot run the course, make the course. It would be unwise for him. So he has passed the torch over to Kamala Harris, even though she's not officially the nominee, but handwriting on the wall shows she will be the nominee. The Obamas, that's why they held back before endorsing her to see what kind of play was going to go on, who was going to come out, or if there's going to be any challenges. And I guess everybody in the Democratic Party realized there's no time for division and fight. They have to collectively come together quickly behind someone. As you know, we're less than 100 days to Election Day. So, Rabbi, I'd like to know, I know you have a lot of political experience as well. How do you see this election shaping for president?
I see Kamala Harris being elected president because she has a tremendous background, tremendous record, and Donald Trump can't compete with her. That's what I see. You know what I mean? She's going to, we got to take back the House, right? And it seemed that way where we're going to have a speaker, Hakeem Jeffries, and hopefully to keep Chuck Schumer as a majority leader. Wow. That's what I see. It wouldn't have happened under Biden as the leader. So that's why you saw that move. And it came to pass where he had to step down.
Do you think the House, do you think the Democrats actually have a chance to take over Congress?
Yes, they're going to take the House back. I'm confident, and I'm a good friend of Hakeem Jeffries, the Speaker, and I'm quite confident we're going to take back the House. In New York here alone, we're going to take back at least 3 or 4 seats from the Republicans. And so that alone will give us the majority in the House.
Wow. So how about the delegates that's needed, Kamala needs to secure the nomination? You think that's definitely going to happen?
Yeah, as you know, the delegates are elected by the people at a Democratic primaries throughout every state, right? So they have to go to a convention. In order for you to be the nominee, you got to go to a convention. So when they go to the Democratic convention, those delegates who were elected at the primary will then turn over and vote for Kamala Harris to confirm her. There's no question about that. That's the rules.
Well, I mean, that looks like I was lining up to me, but according to the ex-president Donald Trump, he's saying that him agreeing to a debate, first of all, he doesn't know who he's debating because there's no nominee, which we all know who is going to be, but he's technically right that there actually is not an official nominee, even though it looks like it will be Kamala Harris. But
he's afraid to debate her.
No, but I'm saying he's saying there's no nominee. So technically he's right because they have not actually voted and selected her through the process of making her a nominee. So I guess when that happens another 2 weeks or less than 2 weeks, August, I think 8th is it going to be?
Right. Biden was not the nominee until he got confirmed at the Democratic convention.
All presidents.
Right. And just like how Trump had to be confirmed in Milwaukee at the Republican convention. Those are the rules.
He was only a candidate until he became the nominee.
Until he become the nominee by the vote of the delegates.
The party,
the delegates who were elected by the people.
Right. So that's the people's voice unanimously saying this is who we want.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Well, that makes sense. And so we'll see, I guess, in another August. What's the actual date for the Democratic convention?
August.
Around the 6th to the 8th, something like that.
But what they're going to do a Zoom polling of those delegates to confirm it before the convention.
Really?
Yes.
So they're going to vote before?
Yes, by Zoom. And then when they go to the convention, they will just confirm it.
Oh, so they're going to get a head count so that when it goes to the convention, they know what
they
have.
already know. Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes.
Well, that makes sense and smart. I guess they don't have time to waste.
Yes.
So, what type of president or nominee, once Kamala becomes the nominee, what type of president do you think she would be as a first African American or black woman, and also
Asian
as a woman?
and
Do you
Asian?
think America is ready for a woman president?
Oh yes. I mean, come on, look at other countries. England, one of the most powerful leaders of the nation of England was Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady. I mean, so if England could have a woman prime minister, Israel, one of the biggest leaders of Israel was she was a woman.
Not prime minister
Prime minister
of Israel.
of Israel.
What was her name?
a female. Golda Meir.
What year was that? What
Way
time?
back. During the in the 60s or something like that.
I got to look it up. I didn't
Yes.
know. And have they had another woman since then? Or she
No,
was the
they
only
haven't had
first
the
and
only one.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So other countries have had female leaders. Jamaica, where we're from, Jamaica had a woman president. Miller. Portia Simpson Miller.
Yeah.
So, I mean, come on. A woman can show good leadership.
I don't doubt that. I don't say no to that.
And Barbados right now, she's probably going to be the next Secretary General of the United Nations. Right? She's a woman showing great leadership around the world, asking for reparations for all African nations and Caribbean nations and American blacks to get reparations. She's leading that fight. She's a woman. So we don't,
Now, this is the problem. What I'm hearing is that some, even I'm hearing this from some Democrats as well, they are saying that Kamala is going to have to try to center herself a little bit more from being so far to the left. They said it's becoming too much leftist politics and agendas, platforms, and even some Democrats are expressing that she's going to need to move over some and center herself better if she wants to win and become the president. They said that the policy of Joe Biden with the border protection, how it's weakened, and so much migrants are in the country, and all of the crimes that they are alluding that is committed by these migrants, which is not totally correct. It is not totally incorrect, because there has been some. You got the guy from Venezuela who shot the police officer right here in New York City. He came through the border. So a lot of crimes have been and are being committed by many of those who's come through that border. So they have a point there on that.
There are some, but the stats will prove that native people, on the average, even including migrants, do more crime than the migrants who come in here. A lot of the migrants who come in here are well-to-do. I mean, like, for example, the African migrants, most of them come from Islamic countries. They pray 5 times a day, as you know, in Islam. They ain't got no time for crime. And when we talk to them, we tell them, you don't commit no crime. You don't do nothing, because if you do, you will be deported. So we train those people. So that's a Donald Trump. That's a misnomer to try to do this thing against the migrants. Plus, the fact is that those migrants under President Biden, there's more deportation. There were more migrants coming in under Donald Trump. That's the facts, right? And Biden has deported more migrants than Donald Trump did.
Is that true?
Yes, those are the facts. So we have to understand that under Donald Trump, he had all these camps. He put children in cages. This is under Donald Trump. So let's talk about the facts. All these are playing on people's minds and fears. Plus, they're talking about illegal. These migrants are not illegal, especially African migrants that I know I work with. Right? They got papers.
Yeah, but all I'm saying is that, and I'm not disagreeing. Many come in for the right reason. They want to try to make living, understand. But there's an immigration process which they have to go through. Whether they do an asylum or whatever it is that they follow, whatever reason they say that they came here for, there's a process they have to go through, right? And many of them are following that process with the hopes of getting a stay by the court
Yeah.
that they could go ahead and have work authorization and make a living. Right.
So they're here legally.
But there's a process. They're here illegally, but they're not here. They have a temporary stay, legal stay, until heard by an immigration judge.
Right.
Exactly. But my point is, there has been documented cases down in Times Square, right here in the Bronx, and other places where many of these people who came through the border have committed hard crimes. I'm talking about murder. I'm talking about heavy drugs, and shooting of a police officer. So, and it's been documented. They chased one guy who shot the police all the way back and caught him before he could get across the border. Who shot a police? So he did come in through the border, and they're coming in, and they are creating some problem here.
So you got to understand that some of those governments there you know.
Yeah, but they said Mexico and some of the places.
No, Mexico
let out the hardened criminals out there in prisons and let them go across the border.
First of all, hardly any migrants coming here from Mexico are Mexicans. Right?
Venezuelans and
Venezuela,
I know Mexicans come
Colombia, no, very few. Because let me show you why Mexicans are not really migrating to the United States as much before, right? It's because since NAFTA was created, they all of these car companies and truck companies and everything like that has to pay union wages.
NAFTA, you mean the free trade agreement where the companies open up.
Right, so they all those plants in Mexico got to pay a union wage like the United States. So those people in Mexico are making income like they're in the United States. So why flee to the United States when they can make income?
Well, anyway, that's not for everyone, and if that's the case, they would not still be trying to come through the border.
Yeah, but let me just.
They have videos of thousands of people from Mexico, lined up. Women with babies walking through streams and waters.
Coming through Mexico, but they're not Mexicans.
Into America.
They're coming through Mexico.
So if it was that good and that safe, and life was that good for them, women would not be walking through rivers.
But they're not
staying outdoors for months. What are they? They're coming from Colombia, Venezuela, Panama. They're coming from Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua. And they come. The only way they can get to America is coming to Mexico. Yeah. But they're not Mexicans. Well, many in there are Mexicans. Well, I can tell you that. I don't say the majority, but they are of Mexican background as well. But moving forward, this is an issue that Kamala is going to have to deal with, because even Democrats, I'm telling you, are expressing what is her plan and vision about doing something about this border fix, and getting a fix there. And take it or leave it, if she doesn't come off of the left and center herself better as to why and what is her vision and platform for it, she's going to face opposition right from her own party, Democrats, who will be voting against her.
Well, you know what I would do?
And so she's going to have to come up with a platform to the American people, or especially to the Democrats, as to what is her plan. Democrats are feeling hurt and threatened behind this border action because they're saying now they're believing what Donald Trump says, that the jobs are being taken from them. And this is happening. Your murders in the streets, your crimes are going up because of, and they're starting to believe it, and some of it is true.
No, but sir, let me explain to you. You know why we pay less money for meats, less money for eggs, less all that stuff? It's the migrants that come and work on the farms in Iowa, work on the farms in California. They're the ones that do that. Average American's not going to take those jobs. So they're not taking jobs away. Yeah. And it costs us less. The reason why prices are going up in all these things is because they're preventing migrants from coming in, working on the farms to do the job. Okay. Let's understand that. The prices of these things are going up because of this policy of preventing migrants from coming in to work on the farms, to work on those jobs that we wouldn't take.
Okay, we're going to take a break and come right back and get into this more.
Yes.
Stay tuned.
Plus a lot of those
great times.
African migrants, and some of them got here because they were being
Clearance still on it. No, they haven't clearance to break yet. Stay tuned. We get ready to take a momentary break, and we will be right back with you. Break. Okay, well, we're going to continue on. So, our technical department said we could proceed without breaks, so that's fine. We need the time. So, Rabbi Mashan, as we discussed that, so all I'm saying is this is just some of the things that's facing the Democratic Party and Kamala Harris, and she's going to have to come up with some platform or policy that she intends to promote or put in place once elected or if elected to do something about this.
And they did. By the way, the White House got together with conservative Democrat senator from Oklahoma, Langford, and came up with a conservative agreement on the border, right? And Donald Trump told them to block it, right? They had the plan where they would be stopping migrants from coming across. They would have immigration thing where they would do the immigration right at the border so they didn't have to come into the United States. All that was part of the agreement, having more border patrol people there. And the Republicans by Donald Trump blocked it.
Okay, let me ask you a question. From your community, the Israeli community, what's the consensus or the majority, or what are you hearing that they do, or who they're going to support for president?
Well, Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So what about Kamala Harris' position? She's going to also have to come up. You know, some of the delegates withdrew their vote in support, or they didn't even withdraw it. They didn't even give their support. They're holding back until they speak with her, those in Michigan and some other states, until they hear her platform on Gaza.
Right.
They want to know, is she going to be a rubber stamp of a continuation of Gaza? Is she going to push for a peace solution, a two-state solution, once and for all, or if she's going to continue this work of rubber stamping Israel to continue to just destroy people's lives in Gaza? She's going to have to come up with that.
And she did.
I watched on...
and she did. She confronted Netanyahu when they met and told him what you're doing in Gaza is totally wrong, and you cannot continue that. And I am for a two-state solution. She told it directly to Netanyahu. And when Netanyahu went and met with Trump, Trump said she disrespected the prime minister.
That was Trump's
yes, right, because she came up and says it cannot continue.
But I saw him on TV in Trump's house at the table.
Yes.
They had a round table discussion, I guess, dinner, and he was saying, well, I can tell you one thing: if Kamala Harris becomes president, be prepared for possible a third world war and more conflict in the East, and for sure weakened protection for Israel.
Yeah. Well, you know what Donald Trump says about Gaza? And telling the prime minister of Israel to do?
What?
Destroy Gaza. Bomb it. So who are you going to choose?
But they bombed it already.
No, but they said totally destruction.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, that's what Donald Trump, that's Trump's position.
So I guess the voters are going to make up their decision and as to who is who and what is what.
And by the way, in Israel, there's over 1 million Israeli Jews that are demonstrating against Netanyahu in Israel.
True. And right here in America.
Right. So you can't put that on always.
Well, I'm just saying it's two sides, what people are saying on her side, and Donald Trump has expressed this on his side, that she would be the worst thing that happens for this country, far as protection of this country, national security, and for a Mideast peace process. Forget about it. that she's saying people would run rampant. There would be more problems in the Middle East, more wars, and even the Third World War right
and
here.
you're talking about the migrant situation. Donald Trump said he would put up a concentration camp, right? And put you could look like a foreigner, and they pick you up. The military come and pick you up and deport you to some country that you don't belong to. That's what happened when Eisenhower did that with the Mexicans. He picked up a lot of Mexicans who were born here and deported them. So what I'm saying, and not only the camp, he's also saying he's going to put a Muslim ban in here, and he's going to deport all Muslims.
Well, that's constitutional violation.
No, but that's
you can say whatever you want to say, but there's a constitution that you have to respect and
Donald
follow.
Trump don't represent.
Supreme Court is not won't uphold.
Donald Trump
uphold that.
No, they just gave Donald Trump anything he wanted.
Well, that's a different situation. But you talk about religious rights, and you can't do that to deport or put a person in a concentration camp because of a religion. You know, that's the case. That's discrimination.
No, he's going to deport them.
You can't deport them if they have a right to be here. You can't deport them unless you have a ground for it. It can't be because of religion. He can say anything to get voters, but that can't and won't be the case.
Right, and any Muslim, person coming from a Muslim country, from Bangladesh or any one of those countries, you cannot come into the United States. That's what he's saying. Well,
he'll make it harder to come in.
No, he'll ban it.
Okay. Well, let's see.
Let's look at the facts.
Yeah. And he may very well. And Kamala, we still yet to know her immigration policy yet. I guess after she gets the official nomination, we're going to hear what she says. But I know one thing, she's going to have to come clear and better with her platform for the American people, for those in poor communities, for those in suffering communities. She's going to have an economic agenda that's true, that's within her heart and her mind, that she believes that she's going to push and get through and do something about the inner cities. It can't be a rubber stamp over and over and over. People are getting fed up with the Democratic Party. And it's enough talk from Democrats about, oh, we're the party of the people. We're the party of the people. You're the party of destroying people if you don't correct your platform. And this is why more people are looking at Donald Trump, because they say, well, at least Trump is saying exactly where he's coming from and what he's going to do. Democratic Party giving us a pacifier and turning around and steadily keeping us in bondage, oppression. Democrats going to have to get their act together if they want this presidency.
But they're going to have the act together. We have the best economy in the world. More jobs.
All I'm saying is we're talking about new president coming in, Kamala Harris. She needs to come straight with her agenda and let it be in the right agenda for the people. Let her be true to what she says. But anyway, Rabbi, we're going to move on because enough with the politics. We're going to get back into that. We hear it every day on the news, but I'm just saying this is what what I'm hearing, what we're hearing outside and through the internet, TikToks, all these other apps. We're hearing all people expressing themselves like this. She needs to come straight. And she needs to come in. And I'm hoping, and I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt. I hope she does. And I hope she has a plan for poor and oppressed people of this country that's been down for so long. And it's a time that the cap be removed off them. So, Rabbi, so we have you here. Many people, I've talked to people in the streets, and I told them, tune in today. We have Rabbi Golf Mashan, and they asked you the first thing, where is he from? Is he from Israel? I said, no, he's from here. His roots come from the Caribbean, Africa. Yeah. That's the Caribbean, Africa. And they said, he's not white? And I said, he's light, but not white. So they said, are you serious? And I said, you didn't know about the history of the Israelis and the Hebrew Israelites that dated back even before the state of Israel was created in that land, period. Yes. You had those who was of the faith and Israelis, the Hebrew Israelites, that dated back hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. Yes. And that's why when they come into the state of Israel now, that they have to accept them because they are of the true Hebrew Israelites before they even were in existence. But you was telling me about some different history about the Israelites dating back into different parts of West Africa, Mali. Is this the case?
And all that. So how we know is that the Islamic brothers in 7-11, and he went in and drove the Europeans out of Spain and Portugal, and ruled Spain and Portugal for over 700 years until 1492. The Moors,
yeah.
But the Moors were also not just Arabs; they were also Jews, Black Hebrew Israelites.
Was involved.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
And when
with the Muslim.
Yes. So when the Muslims came there, they realized that the Israelites had certain skills that they needed.
I think you might be right. You know why? About what you're saying about the history of that?
Yes.
Because in Granada, Spain,
yes,
where they have some of that architectural structure still left, they says you saw masjids and you saw synagogues there.
Yes.
Still left.
Right.
And that means that they existed together.
Yes.
So you might be right because they were all was of Africa descent. So they seem to have a common interest of working together.
So Arabic and Hebrew was developed by those two countries in Spain and Portugal. Right. That's why.
So what countries did they come out of?
They came out of Africa, Morocco. They came out of Israel, where Israel is today, because
Palestine,
Israel is not what we know today as the Middle East. Israel was part of Africa. It was
attached. They come from Mali too, though?
Yes.
Okay.
They came from all of those places.
Because they said they even had what do you call it? A synagogue in Timbuktu.
Yes, they got 3 Hebrew. I've been to Mali. They have 3 Hebrew communities in Mali. Here's what happened. People don't understand. Askia Muhammad the Great was the king of was the ruler of the Songhai Empire. So during 1492, when they drove the Moors back out of Spain and Portugal, the Portuguese king had a decree with Askia Muhammad the Great. That you should not, just like we drove them the Inquisition, you gotta do the same in things. That's how you found a lot of Muslims in West Africa. They were Hebrew Israelites. They were forced by Askia Muhammad the Great to convert or die, just like they did in Spain, right? So you find out there is a lot of Hebrew Israelite or Jewish traditions in West Africa. They practice the same thing. For example, most of the West Africans circumcise their boy on the 8th day. What is that? That's a Hebrew Israelite. That's a Jewish document within the Torah. You circumcise the boy on the 8th day. So they had those traditions. See, I explained to people that when Moses was going across the Red Sea into a lot of people didn't follow him. A lot of people wanted to kill Moses. They didn't want to follow him. So where did they go? They didn't go with him. Guess where they went? Central Africa, West Africa. So those Hebrew Israelites that was driven out during the Exodus went into West Africa and Central Africa. That's why we can find tribes in West Africa. They are in the Igbo people in Nigeria, or Hebrew Israelites, tracing themselves back to the ancestry.
Wow.
Right? And there are 40 million of them. Let's go to West. Let's go to East Africa. The Lumba tribe, another 40, 50 million of them in South Africa, in Mozambique, in Zimbabwe, 40 million.
So the state of Israel, as we see it today, they claim that they are the nucleus, or they are the Jewish people. No, they don't. But they make it as if they control the rights of Jewish people and they are the originators of the Jewish faith.
No, they in actuality,
but yet I say what you're saying about history, I say if that's the case, it can't be correct if we going back hundreds and hundreds of years ago and you had Jewish people, the Jewish faith or Israelites that existed way before people even came to existence.
Right.
So how could that be?
All right. So if you gotta understand the story of the Exodus. First, the Semitic people. There were another Semitic people that used to rule Egypt, right? But they weren't Hebrews. They were Semitic, right? The Hebrews are Semitic people, but they're Hebrews, right? So when Joseph was sold into into there. It was a Semitic person there. Then you had the African people from the Nile Valley came in and overthrew those people and threw them out of Egypt. And the Africans went in and captured Israel. Right? So when the Hebrews were outnumbering the Egyptians that were there, they were afraid that they would link up with the other thing to come back and overthrow them.
So how and when did the white Jewish people come into existence?
No.
After this,
the white Jews never. The white Jews. I give an example. The Lubavitcher people you see there, they're 12% African blood in them, right? You gotta understand, nobody was white in the beginning. If you go to the story of Sheikh Anta Diop, Sheikh Anta Diop said there was nobody on any other continent in the world, right? They were basically come out of Africa, dark-skinned people, and then when they moved in, they moved around the world, they become lighter and lighter, right? The reason why we have dark skin is because we need the melanin for the sun because we're in Africa.
Yes.
Right? So when you go into Europe, into the color, you become lighter and lighter, and then you intermarry. So those African, those Lubavitcher people, they got into slavery. The Roman Empire, when they destroyed Solomon Temple after 30 years after Jesus died, they destroyed Solomon Temple. They took those Lubavitcher people into slavery and brought them into Europe, right? Into Poland, into Germany, into Russia. And they intermarried with people. That's how they became lighter and lighter, right? So if you go marry some other white lady, the children become lighter and lighter. That's what happened. You understand? Yeah. So those people are African. The Lubavitch people will tell you we're not European and we're not white. I got that in their prayer book. It tells you that thank God when they say the prayer in the morning that you didn't make me a white person.
Would Netanyahu agree with that?
Huh?
Would Netanyahu agree with what you're saying?
You can't dispute that. It's in their prayer book. It's in their prayer book, brother. It's in the prayer book. They will tell you we're not. They'll tell you we are African because any Jew.
It says that in the prayer book?
Yes.
Verbatim that we are.
They didn't say we are African, but it says we're not white. We're not European. He said, God, thank you, Lord, you didn't make me that person. You didn't make me like them. And they will tell you we're not European. We might be born in Europe and come from Europe, but we're not them. We're not those people. Those people are the oppressors. That oppress us, and so
now why is it that so many people, like I saw some rabbis out were speaking out from Brooklyn. Now these are rabbis who have the cultural clothing with the hats and the badge, and they follow the scripture, the Bible, the Old Testament, and they were protesting down in Washington D.C. the other day when Netanyahu was speaking at Congress.
Yes,
and they were saying that they don't recognize the state of Israel as a state for Jewish people.
Right.
But yet they are Jewish.
Right. So you got, just like Islam, you got Sunni Shiite. Just like Christianity, you got Baptist, Methodist, you got all these things. It's the same thing in Judaism.
But they say but we talk about the state.
So they're Hasidic. They are Hasidic. The ones in not Williamsburg, in some part in Brooklyn, they believe that the Torah, God said in the command that you shall not have a state. We shall scatter you all around. So they don't believe in the physical state. That's their sect. It's a Jewish sect. So they believe that, right? They believe that there should be no state of Israel. That's why they will demonstrate against the state of Israel. That's one group in the Jewish faith. There are several Jewish people don't understand. There's the ultra-Orthodox Jew. You got the Hasidic Jew. You got the Lubavitcher Jew. You got the Ashkenazi Jew. You got the Sephardic Jew, which I am a Sephardic Jew, which is mostly African Jew. You got
how far back does the Sephardic Jew goes in history?
Back before time, back during the time, and then they were.
Did they go into the Old Testament?
Yes,
time?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So this is what I'm trying to tell you. It's a,
so you will be more original to the faith or to the root of it more so than the current day
well,
people.
we don't go into this original thing because that's where you get into trouble. See, because in order for you to be a Jew, it's not about who is original, who is practicing what way. Is you gotta be
accepting of
the Torah,
doctrine.
accepting the Torah. You gotta be a Torah believer. The 613 commandments that God gave Moses, not 10, 613 commandments, ladies and gentlemen.
So if you accept and believe that, that makes you a Jewish person of Jewish faith?
Yes, if you don't accept it, you're not a Jew. Okay. So there's people who are in Jewish name, right, that don't accept the Torah, then they're not Jewish. They're Jewish in name only. And that's why you gotta separate the two.
Yeah, I was wondering because I saw it. I was shocked to see it at the rally, in Washington, D.C.
They just don't believe in the state. They believe that the Torah says you shouldn't have a state because God said in the Torah, I shall scatter you to the four corners of the earth, and you shall be in every nation. So you shall not have a specific nation. That's what the Hasidic interpret that part of the Torah as that. And so they believe that there should be no state of Israel.
Okay. Well, then some believe that and some don't, obviously, because they have a creation of the state of Israel, right?
Right. But the state of Israel, I mean, it is there, and it's supposed to be the homeland, but it became misinterpreted because the Zionism came into play, which was basically England did all of that, right? Because they had a Jewish problem in England too. You know what I mean? So it's the Ashkenazi Jews, basically the European Jews from basically Germany and Poland and places like that. They're Ashkenazi.
Because anytime they're talking of somebody representing the Jewish faith, whether it's in Israel or wherever in the world, they always show somebody other than like a person of Jewish faith from your background or from what's the name of the what kind of Jewish you said that's a Sephardic Jew. They never had. Why is it that Sephardic Jews have been accepted the faith for so long, but yet they never use a Sephardic Jew to represent speaking for the Jewish people?
Because in Israel, the Sephardic Jews don't have the power. The Ashkenazi Jew, the ultra-Orthodox have the power. So, for example, they will tell you that you cannot come to Israel unless you get or you can't convert unless you get approval from the ultra-Orthodox Ashkenazi rabbis, right? But the majority of the people in Israel are not Ashkenazi, they're Sephardic.
But they don't have the power of political
They don't
power.
have the political power because when England and them set up the state, they gave the power to the ultra-Orthodox Ashkenazi.
And to keep control, right?
Yes.
Yeah, cause I was wondering, as I was having this discussion with someone before that, and they never knew that there was for Sephardic Jews that look other than being a white-skinned Jew. And I was like, calling it. And when they talked to me, they said in Ethiopia. Yes. They went back so far in Ethiopia. Yes. And they didn't know that there was people of Jewish faith in Ethiopia.
Right, of course. That from the King Solomon days with Queen of Sheba, right? Who had a son with Solomon, right? They had a Jew, right? So there she had a son with Solomon, Jewish, right? And he came back to Ethiopia, and according to the story in Ethiopia, that King Solomon gave the Ark of the Covenant to Queen Sheba, and right now the Ethiopians are saying the Ark of the Covenant, which is the Jewish book, is in Ethiopia, and nobody can see it. So that's why there's a connection there with Ethiopians, and not only that, with all of Eastern Africa. You understand? So the history is there. So what I'm trying to tell you is the majority of the people in the world that are Jewish are people of color.
Okay.
They're not white.
The Sephardic Jews or the Jewish people, they was given a covenant according to the scripture, correct?
Well, all of the Jews were given to there was no such thing at the time They were just Hebrew Israelites.
Okay, so the Hebrew, let's use that then.
Yes.
They were given a covenant from God, right?
Yes,
Was that covenant
to Moses.
ever was it upkept or was it ever broken?
Always, but people break it because in the beginning you gotta realize that Moses got 10 commandments to give to the people, right? Everybody say 10 commandments, right?
You said 610.
613.
613, yeah.
So what happened was when Moses came down with the commandments from God, he saw all the people. They were worshiping a golden calf as God. They were having illegal sex. They were, stealing, right, doing all sorts of illegal stuff against the commandments. And Moses got mad, and he broke the commandments, the 2 tablets, right? And God called him back up and, Moses, why did you do that? You know what I mean? I gave you the command, right? So he rewrote the commandments. Right? Because they were worshiping a golden idol. So the first commandment, what is the first commandment in the Torah? The first commandment, it says, I'm a jealous God. Thou shalt have no other gods beside me. Right? Thou shalt not see me nor anything like that. I am a jealous God. I'm invisible. Right? And that's because he rewrote it because of the simple fact that they were worshiping idols. And he says, I'm one God. I'm a jealous God.
So after that happened, the covenant was broken, so there needed to be a redeemer to come, or actually a guy to restore them back to the path of God. So did another scripture, according to your faith, come in play after that?
No. So within the Jewish faith, the book, the Old Testament, the 5 books of Moses is the Torah, the law. It means Torah means the law or the commandments, right? So the 5 books is Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Then after that, the other books up to Malachi, which is the last book in the Old Testament, is called the Tanakh, right? So we put the 2 together. The Tanakh is where you have most of the prophets and stuff like that, And King David, the Psalms is part of the Tanakh. But within the scribes, we have what we call the Talmud. You have the Jerusalem Talmud, and you have the Babylonian Talmud, and those are interpretation by the scribes at that time.
But they say that in the Talmud,
but it's not Torah.
No, I didn't say Torah. I said Talmud.
Yeah.
In the Talmud, it condemns Jesus. And,
no. Well, I mean, later on when they did all of that stuff, because we don't follow Jesus, right? But if you got to acknowledge the reason why Jesus was doing, he didn't come as Jesus was condemning the Sadducees and the Pharisees, who were other Jews who were worshiping the idols, worshiping with the Romans and doing the dirty work of the Romans. And Jesus was against that because Jesus was a rabbi himself. He was a Hebrew Israelite.
In your faith, that's what you believe, right?
No, everybody believe that. They can't say it because even in the New Testament, it says in the synagogue.
Well, I'm saying, but not all faith believe that. It depends on your belief or your system of what you follow.
No, but we don't follow the New Testament. So, but I'm just saying.
I said there's others like who believe Jesus to be other things. You say that Jesus was this or that, but he was a rabbi.
But he was a rabbi. And if you read the New Testament and read Matthew chapter,
some call him a prophet.
That's for their interpretation, but not according to the Jewish faith.
Okay,
we don't recognize him as a prophet.
Okay,
but I acknowledge it. I acknowledge him. So I'm not going to condemn him.
Because it was brought up and it was shown in Talmud where it was mentioned in the Talmud where they condemned them, and so I guess that's just a matter of
it's a matter of those rabbis at the time were upset with Jesus because he was condemning them for not following Torah. They weren't following Torah, right? Because Jesus, when he came, if you read Matthew chapter 5, say, I didn't come to change the law, the 613 laws. I came to affirm it, and the fulfilling, he came to affirm it. And he says, not one letter of that law shall change.
So if the rabbis were able to write in the Talmud, the writing of condemning Jesus, then how could it be the law of God if the rabbis wrote it.
It's not the law of God. The Talmud is an interpretation by those scrolls and those things like that. I don't follow
Interpretation of what?
Huh?
Interpretation of what?
Their interpretation of the Torah,
Scriptures?
of the scriptures, of the Torah.
So it's like rewriting the Torah in their view.
It's interpretation.
In their
Just like in Christianity, you got
But if
different
they get to
versions
pick
of the
and
Bible.
choose, if they get to pick and choose what they want to say because they're angry at Jesus, so they can write something bad about Jesus.
So,
how do you accept it?
So in Christianity, you got the King James version, you got the New version, you got all those versions. So who wrote all those different versions and different interpretations in the New Testament, right?
Yeah.
So the same thing.
But you said that they was upset with him because he was condemning the other ones who were breaking the covenant, so they wrote bad about him. But if that's the case, if they're picking and choosing and they're rewriting or interpreting scripture according to the way they see it, then how do we know the validity of it, or what's true and what's false of it? You know?
So, for example, the Talmud, it doesn't say that in Torah. For example, most of the Lubavitch or Hasidic Jews on Shabbat, they will not get into a car or they can't turn the light on Shabbat, right? Because they say that violating, but that's not in the. That's not in when it was written, we didn't have all of that.
That's interpretation,
right? They put interpretation there and made it like it was law.
So then, was your mother
yes
of the Jewish faith?
Yes.
And father.
All right. So
how about your grandmother?
And all of them. So here's what it is, and I did that on the Ivan Van Sertima. He said, come with me to Spain and Portugal to Lisbon. And to Granada, Spain. And he said Columbus kept a diary, and he did. He took me to Lisbon, and in Columbus' diary, we saw my name, Marchant, right? And in the diary, it said, during the Spanish Inquisition, when they were expelled from Portugal, he took them to a place called Alligator Pan in Manchester.
Jamaica.
Manchester, St. Elizabeth, Jamaica.
Okay.
Right, because Columbus came to Jamaica 3 times. People didn't know that.
Is that true?
Yes. Okay. And as a matter of fact, the first governor of Jamaica was his brother Bartholomew and his daughter were left to rule Jamaica in the name of the Spanish Empire, not the Portuguese. So the name was there. So when I did the research, come to find out that both of the Marchant, the Sarah, right, and Darius Marchant, which is a Jewish name, they were buried in a place in Brunswick in St. Elizabeth. And when you go to the gravesite, it has the Star of David on the gravesite, buried in 1549, and everything written in Hebrew. So they were what we call crypto Jews. My grandfather became a Catholic. He brought me up with a Catholic, but on Shabbat day, we would observe the Shabbat, and when he killed the animals, he would kill them kosher style, right? Because they became crypto Jews, because if they didn't become Catholics in the Spanish Inquisition, they would die.
Yeah, you might have a point there, because they did have a strong rulership.
Right, they would die
in the Caribbean
islands. Right, but this is all throughout. They would die, and not only that, they talk about that those Jews financed the slave trade. They didn't. They were forced to. They had even in West Africa, they had all that money and all that income, and the income was confiscated by Spain and Portugal to finance the ships for the slave trade by force.
Well, here we are. Here we have it. You see for yourself. You hear for yourself. Rabbi Garth Marchant. So we do have those of the Jewish faith who looks like the typical person that they have to represent the Jewish faith on TV and in your magazines and around the world, looking like other than Garth Marchant. But here he is live in our studio. And
I want to say this
generational wise, going back hundreds of years to his family.
I want to say this one thing. I brought a picture, I don't know if you can put it up on the screen, of Rabbi Winford Matthews, a black gentleman from St. Kitts, the island of St. Kitts, in 1919 in Harlem. He established the Commanders Keepers, an Orthodox Jewish community, which I follow that lineage. And he said that all of these Africans who came here, Ethiopian Hebrew group, he said all of the people who came here as slaves were Hebrew Israelites on the ship.
Do you believe that? Do you think that if these Jews, that's the minority, that's not empowered as you today, if they were in power, do you think they would have proceeded or agreed to this war and destruction of Gaza?
No, and most Jewish people are
No.
I'm just saying no.
No. Okay, that's the question. All right.
No.
Okay. Well, anyway, look, we thank you for coming, Golf, Rabbi Rashawn. We're gonna maybe invite you back another time to discuss more. You know, always an hour is very short,
Yes.
especially for such in-depth topics like this. But we will have further discussions on it. But I just wanted the world to be able to see that, due to my conversations with others, when they ask it, they have people of African descent who's really Jew. I said these were originals.
Yeah.
And I would invite one to the studio. So thanks for coming in.
Yeah, 20% of the American Jews are people of color. 20% of the population.
Okay.
By the end of in the next 30 years, the majority of American Jews will be people of color.
Okay.
Because more people are coming forward.
Thank you. So thank you for tuning in to Millennium News 24 Power Talk. I'm your host once again, Eric Stevenson, and we thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to great guests in the upcoming future, and we'll see you next week. Thank you. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.